I am 82 years old, and most mornings it takes me about 20 minutes just to get my legs to agree with the floor. It is a slow, rhythmic negotiation. I sit on the edge of the mattress, waiting for the blood to find my feet, waiting for the sharpness in my lower back to dull into a manageable ache. My hands don't really feel like mine anymore. They are stiff, the knuckles swollen and hard, like knots in an old piece of oak. When I try to make a fist, there is a resistance that feels like sand in the joints. I look at them, these hands that typed 10,000 reports and signed 1,000 contracts, and they look like strangers to me. They are gnarled tools that I overused until the gears stripped. I've come to realize that this didn't happen suddenly. I wasn't struck by a singular tragedy or a sudden accident. I earned this ending. I built this body of pain, brick by brick, year by year, with a level of dedication that I used to be proud of. Every morning, as I sort my pills into the little plastic trays, the blue ones for the heart, the white ones for the blood pressure, the yellow ones to keep the inflammation down, I look at the clock. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. For 45 years, 7 o'clock meant I was already behind. It meant I should have been at my desk an hour ago. Now it just means I've survived another night of shallow sleep, and I have another 14 hours to fill in a body that has finally given up on me. I spent my life thinking I was making a trade. I thought I was being the responsible one. I was the man who stayed late. I was the man who took the extra shifts, who volunteered for the weekend travel, who never said no to a project, no matter how much it bled into my life.
I told myself it was for the future. I told my wife it was for the house, for the children's college, for the peace of mind we would have when we were old. Well, I am old now. The house is paid for. The college accounts are long since spent. The peace of mind I promised myself is nowhere to be found. When I was 32, I had my first real warning. It was a tightness in my chest, a feeling like a heavy hand pressing down on me while I was finishing a report at midnight. I remember leaning back in my chair, the fluorescent lights of the office humming above me, and thinking, I just need a vacation. But the project wasn't done. I took a few deep breaths, drank some cold water, and went back to work. I told myself I'd see a doctor when things calmed down. Things never calm down. I made sure of that. I thrived on the chaos. I thought the adrenaline was a sign of vitality. I didn't realize it was actually the sound of my engine redlining for decades without an oil change. By my 40s, the back pain had become a constant companion. It was a dull, thumping heat at the base of my spine. I dealt with it by buying a more expensive chair. I bought ergonomic keyboards. I took aspirin like they were candy. I remember my wife asking me to go for a walk in the evenings, and I would tell her I was too tired. I was spent, I'd say. I thought being spent was a badge of honor. I thought it meant I was giving my all to my family. But I wasn't giving it to my family. I was giving it to a company that replaced me within 2 weeks of my retirement party. I was giving it to a bank account that I can't even use now to buy a single day of physical comfort. The accumulation of damage is a quiet thing. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It's the missed meals where I just grabbed a bag of chips or a cup of coffee because I was too busy to eat real food. It's the 3 hours of sleep I averaged for a decade, thinking I could catch up on the weekend. You don't catch up on sleep. You just build a debt that your nervous system eventually collects with interest. I remember sitting in meetings, my legs cramping under the table, my eyes burning from the screen, and feeling a strange sense of superiority. I looked at the people who left at 5 o'clock, and I thought they were weak. I thought they didn't have the drive. I see them now, some of them, at the park or the grocery store. They move differently than I do. They walk with a fluidness that I haven't known in 20 years. They have knees that work. They have memories of dinners I missed and weekends I spent in a haze of exhaustion. They were the smart ones. They understood that a career is just a part of a life, not the container for it. I, on the other hand, Let my work consume everything, leaving only the husk behind. The turning point for me was 10 years ago. I was 72, just a couple of years into my retirement. I had all this money saved up. I had the nest egg. We were going to travel. We were going to see the Alps, go to Italy, finally take that boat trip. I had it all mapped out in folders. I had the spreadsheets. I had the currency converters. I was prepared for everything, except for the fact that my body was finished. I collapsed in the garden, just weeding the roses. It wasn't a heart attack, not exactly. It was total systemic failure. My kidneys were struggling, my heart was enlarged from years of untreated high blood pressure, and my spine had narrowed to the point where the nerves were being strangled. I remember the doctor sitting at the end of my hospital bed. He was a young man, maybe 35. He looked at my charts with a kind of clinical pity. He told me, "Your body is much older than 72. He explained that the chronic stress, the lack of movement, the poor diet, and the refusal to address minor issues for 30 years had essentially weathered my internal organs. He used the word atrophied. He said it like it was a natural consequence, and for him, I suppose it was. But for me, it was the first time I realized that I had spent my health to buy my wealth, and the exchange rate was a scam. I had traded a vibrant, functioning body for a set of numbers in a digital ledger. And now that I wanted to trade back, the market was closed. I spent the next 6 months in physical therapy, trying to learn how to move without gasping. I used my savings to pay for the best specialists. I bought the best braces, the most advanced medications, the most comfortable adjustable bed money could buy. I spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on physical therapists who tried to coax some movement back into my frozen shoulders. I bought a car with specialized seats. I bought a walk-in bathtub. I turned my home into a very expensive, very comfortable infirmary. And that's when the clarity hit me. It hit me like a cold wave. Money is supposed to be a tool for freedom. That's what we're told, isn't it? Save up, invest, work hard, and you'll be free. But money cannot buy back the cartilage in my knees. It cannot unenlarge my heart. It cannot return the years of flexibility I traded for a padded office chair. I have a very nice bank balance. I look at it on my tablet sometimes. It's a large number. And yet, I cannot pay someone to take this pain out of my hips. I cannot pay a surgeon to give me back a nervous system that isn't fried from 4 decades of cortisol. I misunderstood what money could do. I thought it was a safety net. I didn't realize that while I was weaving the net, I was burning the ground I was supposed to land on. I was so focused on the someday that I completely ignored the now. And now is all that's left. Now is a small apartment, a lot of pills, and a walker that I hate more than I can put into words. There are things that simply cannot be fixed. That is the hardest truth to sit with in the quiet of this house. When you are young, you think the body is a self-healing machine. You think you can abuse it, neglect it, push it to the limit, and then fix it later with medicine or surgery. But the body remembers every hour you sat hunched over. It remembers every meal you skipped. It remembers every time you pushed through a fever because you had a deadline. It stores those insults. It keeps a ledger. And eventually, it demands payment. My payment is that I cannot walk more than 100 yards without needing to sit down. My payment is that I spend more time talking to pharmacists than I do to friends. My payment is the realization that I am a wealthy man who lives in a prison made of his own bones. I look at my children now. They are in their 40s and 50s. I see them doing the same thing. I see my son checking his emails at the dinner table. I see the dark circles under my daughter's eyes. When I try to tell them, when I try to say, "Slow down, it's not worth it," they give me that same look I used to give my father. A look of, "You don't understand, Dad. The world is different now. The competition is harder." I have to do this. They think I'm talking about work-life balance. They think I'm using some modern buzzword. I'm not. I'm talking about the actual physical degradation of their future. I'm talking about the fact that they are trading their 80s for their 40s. What I didn't understand back then was that health isn't a goal you achieve. It's the floor. It's the foundation. Without it, the house you spend 40 years building, the career, the savings, the reputation, it all just sinks into the mud. I spent my life building a beautiful house on a foundation of sand. And now that the storm of old age has arrived, I am watching the walls crack, and no amount of money can stop the settling. I have the money for the repairs, but there are no parts available for this model. The manufacturer has stopped making the components I need. I'm not bitter, exactly. It's more of a profound, heavy sadness, a realization of the waste. I look at the photos on the mantle. Me at 40, me at 50, me at 60. In every photo, I look tired. In every photo, my shoulders are a little higher, my jaw a little tighter. I wasn't present in any of those moments. I was thinking about the next quarter, the next promotion, the next security milestone. I reached the milestones. I checked all the boxes. And here I am. The silence in this house is very loud sometimes. My wife passed away 3 years ago. Her body gave out too, though in a different way. We spent our golden years going to doctors together. Our dates were trips to the city for her treatments or my surgeries. That was the retirement we earned. We sat in waiting rooms together, holding hands, surrounded by other people who had made the same trade. We'd talk about the trips we never took.
We'd look at the brochures for cruises and wonder if we could manage the stairs. Most of the time, the answer was no. We had the money for the first-class tickets, but we didn't have the stamina to get through the airport. I don't have advice to give. Advice feels too arrogant. I just have this observation from the vantage point of 82 years. Your body is the only place you have to live. You can move to a bigger house. You can move to a better neighborhood. You can move to a warmer climate. But you are always living in your skin, your joints, and your heart. If you wreck that home in the process of paying for the other one, you will find yourself, as I have, with nowhere to truly go. I have a few years left, I suppose. The doctor doesn't give me specifics, but I can feel the engine slowing down. I spend a lot of time by the window. I watch the birds.
I watch the neighbors' kids play in the street. I see the young fathers coming home at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, dragging their laptops behind them like anchors. I want to go out there and tell them. I want to tell them that the money they are earning right now will eventually be spent on physical therapy and specialists to try and undo the damage they are doing to themselves this very second. But I don't go out. My legs hurt too much today. I just sit here, in this expensive, comfortable chair, in this paid-off house, and I wait for the next dose of medicine. I have everything I thought I wanted, and I would trade every cent of it to be able to walk a mile in the sun without pain. I would trade the entire bank account to have back the years I spent being productive instead of being alive. But the bank doesn't take refunds on time, and the body doesn't forgive. I think about the hundreds of weekends I worked. I think about the thousands of hours of overtime. If I could go back, I wouldn't have been a vice president. I wouldn't have had the largest office. I would have been the man who left at 4 o'clock to play catch with his son. I would have been the man who took his wife for a walk every single night until the sun went down. I would have been the man who ate real food and slept 8 hours and listened when his knees started to creak. It is a quiet evening. The sun is going down and the shadows are getting long across the carpet. I think I'll try to get up and make some tea. It will take me a while. I'll have to brace myself against the table, then the counter, then the stove. It's a lot of work just to move across a room. I suppose that's the irony of it all. I worked so hard so that I wouldn't have to struggle when I was old. And now every single breath is a struggle. If this felt familiar to you, If you recognize that tightness in your chest or that dull ache you've been ignoring, I hope you'll think about the trade you're making. I hope you'll consider what you're actually buying. Because I am 82, and I can tell you, the money isn't nearly as valuable as I thought it was. It's just paper, and you can't build a spine out of paper. I think I'll sit here a little longer before I try to stand. The tea can wait. Everything can wait now. That's the one thing I finally have plenty of, time, but I'm too tired to do anything with it. I have reached the finish line, and I am far too exhausted to celebrate the win. If you're willing to share your own story in the comments, I'd like to read it. It helps sometimes to know I'm not the only one who realized this too late.